Let me ask you something, and I need you to actually sit with it before you scroll past. Have you ever felt like people around you are having conversations about you that you are not part of? Like there is this whole narrative running in rooms you are not in group chats you are not in the minds of people who interact with you regularly, and you can feel it even though nobody is saying it to your face? That low hum of awareness that something about you has become a topic? Not because you did anything wrong. Not because you sought attention. Just because there is something about who you are that people simply cannot stop discussing. That feeling you have been carrying around lately, that sense of being talked about, being seen, being the subject of something bigger, then you fully understand that feeling is accurate. And today, we are going to talk about exactly what is happening. Who is saying what? And why the energy around you right now is unlike anything you have experienced before. Stay with me. This is going to be a long one, and every single word of it is for you. So before I get into what the cards showed me, I want to tell you about the 3 days leading up to this reading, because I think context matters, and I think you deserve to know where this came from. 3 days ago, I woke up in the middle of the night. Not from a bad dream, not from a noise, just wide awake, eyes open. That specific kind of awake where you know immediately that sleep is not coming back for a while. And I lay there in the dark, and I had this thought that I could not shake. I was thinking about all the people in my life and around me who have been talked about unfairly, who have had their character dissected by people who did not fully know them, who have had their private moments or their private struggles or their private decisions become public conversation without their consent. And I felt something about that. Something that was half frustration and half recognition, because I have been that person before, and I know what it feels like from the inside. That particular weight of knowing people are discussing you. Knowing that your name is in people's mouths in spaces you cannot see or control. And then the next day, I was at the grocery store, of all places, just doing completely normal life things, picking up things I needed, and I ran into someone I had not seen in a while. And within about 2 minutes of conversation, this person said something to me that stopped me completely. They said, "You know, people talk about you a lot." And they said it not in a negative way, in this almost wondering, almost reverent way. Like it was an observation they had been sitting on, and it just came out. And I stood there in the grocery store aisle, and I thought about it for the rest of the day. That night, I sat down with my cards, and I did not have a title in mind. I did not have a direction. I just started pulling, and I started asking Spirit, what do people need to hear about the fact that they are being talked about right now? What is the truth of what is happening for the people who are going to find this reading? And what came through over the next several hours of pulling and channeling and writing everything down was so layered and so specific and so unexpectedly powerful that I had to take breaks just to process it. I went to bed with pages of notes. I woke up and read through them again. And I sat down here today to give you every single thing that came through. So let us go. Really go. No surface level stuff today. We are going all the way in. The first and most fundamental thing Spirit showed me about this collective is that you are being talked about right now. And I want to immediately address the range of feelings that statement might bring up, because for some of you that feels exciting, and for some of you it feels invasive, And for some of you, it feels like confirmation of something you have been sensing and trying not to read too much into. All of those feelings are valid. And all of them are connected to something real that is happening around you. The talking is not all coming from the same place. That is the first thing to understand. There are multiple conversations happening about you simultaneously in different corners of your life. Some of those conversations are happening between people who admire you and cannot stop talking about what you have been doing, how you have been showing up, the changes they have witnessed in you. Some of those conversations are happening between people who are threatened by you and are processing that threat by analyzing you, picking apart your choices, looking for things to criticize because your existence makes them uncomfortable in ways they have not been honest with themselves about. And some of those conversations are happening in the mind of one specific person who is deeply, privately, almost obsessively thinking about you and what you mean to them and what they are going to do about it. We are going to address all of it. Because all of it is your reality right now, and you deserve the full picture. Let us start with the admiration piece, because Spirit led with it, and I think it is important to establish the foundation before we get into the complicated stuff. There are people in your world who are watching your journey right now with genuine awe. Not performing awe, not saying nice things to your face while thinking something different behind your back. Genuine, authentic, this person is something else kind of awe. They are watching how you handle things. They are watching the choices you make. They are watching the way you carry yourself through situations that would make most people fold or compromise or become a smaller version of themselves. And they are talking about it to other people, because witnessing someone living with integrity and authenticity and genuine self-possession is something people want to share. It is something people reference in conversations about what they want for their own lives. You have become a reference point for people without trying to, without a campaign or an effort or an intention to be one. Just by being who you are. Some of you are going to read that and immediately minimize it. You are going to think, no, that is probably not me. That is probably for someone else in this reading. And I want you to notice that impulse to minimize, and I want you to set it aside for right now. Because Spirit was very specific that the people in this collective have been underestimating how visible they have become. How much their presence is registering to the people around them. How much the story of who they are and what they are doing is circulating in circles they are not directly part of. You have become more talked about than you realize. And the admiration portion of those conversations is more substantial than you have been giving yourself credit for. Drop something in the comments right now. Type "I feel it" if you have been getting this sense lately that people around you are paying more attention than usual, that you are being watched in a way that feels different from before, that something about your energy has shifted and other people are responding to that shift even if nobody has said it to you directly. I want to see how many of you are recognizing this. Now let me get into the person who is privately, obsessively in their own head about you. Because this came through with such force and such specificity that I would not be serving you well if I spent the majority of this reading on anything else. There is someone in your orbit who has made you a topic in their internal world in a way that has genuinely taken over. This is not someone who thinks about you occasionally. This is not someone who has a passing interest that comes and goes. This is someone whose daily experience has been colored by you by thoughts of you, by analysis of you, by feelings about you that they have been trying to manage with varying degrees of success and mostly failing. And here is what makes this particularly interesting. This person did not expect this. They did not see this coming. They are not someone who typically finds themselves in this position. They are confident. They are usually the composed one, the in-control one, the person who moves through situations, including romantic or emotional situations, with this ease that comes from genuinely being good at understanding people and dynamics. They read situations well. They know how to navigate. They are not usually the one off balance. And then there was you. And something about your specific combination of qualities just completely dismantled whatever composure they typically operate from. Not all at once, gradually. The more they observed you, the more the dismantling happened. The more they paid attention, the more the feelings built. The more they tried to figure you out, the more they realized they could not figure you out. And each of those realizations added another layer to something that has now grown into something they cannot ignore or set aside or manage their way through. They are in it completely, and they know it, even if they have not said it to anyone yet. Let me tell you what they specifically see when they see you, because this came through very clearly, and I think you need to hear it described from the outside, because sometimes we genuinely cannot see what we are projecting. They see someone who does not need them. And I cannot overstate how significant that is. In their experience, in their life, in the dynamics they have been part of, people need things. People come with agendas, conscious or unconscious, about what they want to get. People adjust themselves, calibrate themselves, present the version of themselves they think will land best with whoever they are trying to impress or attract or win over. And you just do not. You come as yourself, the real, complete, unedited version of yourself. You are not performing. You are not strategizing. You are not making yourself more appealing or more palatable. You are just who you are. And you let that stand on its own without apology or adjustment. And to someone who has been surrounded by people performing and strategizing and calibrating for most of their adult life, encountering someone who is simply and completely real is almost disorienting. In the best possible way. It makes you stop. It makes you look again. It makes you want to get closer to understand what you are looking at. And the closer they have gotten to understanding you, the more they have realized that you are something genuinely rare. Something that does not come around frequently. Something that if they are honest with themselves, they have been looking for without knowing exactly what they were looking for until they encountered it. They talk about you. This came through specifically, and I want to say it clearly. To the people closest to them, not broadly, not publicly, but to the one or two people who actually know them underneath the surface they present to the world, you have come up in conversation more than once. The way they talk about you is not casual. It is not the way someone mentions someone they find mildly interesting. It is the way someone talks about something that has genuinely gotten to them. Something that they cannot fully explain or categorize. Something that made them feel things they were not prepared to feel and that they are still working through. And for someone who typically keeps their inner world very close and does not easily let people see what is happening in it, the fact that you have broken through enough to become something they actually talk about is significant. Very significant. Now I need to talk about the private life piece, because this is where the reading gets really specific, and Spirit was very insistent that I address it fully. Some of your private life has been exposed. Maybe not dramatically. Maybe not publicly in a way that made headlines or caused obvious chaos. But there have been people in your life who have shared things about you, things you said in private, things you went through, aspects of your personal situation, details about your inner world or your circumstances with other people who should not have had access to that information. And you either know this already or you have been sensing it without having confirmation. This exposure came from different places for different people watching this. For some of you, it came from someone you trusted, who turned out not to be trustworthy with the things you shared. For some of you, it came from people who were close enough to observe you and then chose to broadcast what they observed in ways you never consented to. For some of you, it came from people who were threatened by you and used information they had about your private life as a way to try to control or diminish the narrative about who you are before the truth of who you are could fully emerge and speak for itself. And here is what Spirit wants to say about all of that very clearly. The exposure backfired. The people who revealed things about you thinking it would damage you or diminish you or give them some kind of power in how you are perceived it did not work the way they planned. Because what they revealed did not make people think less of you. It made people more curious about you, more interested, more drawn in. Because the things they revealed, even the difficult things, even the private struggles, even the parts of your story that were shared without your permission, told a story of someone real, someone human, someone who has been through things and kept going anyway. Someone whose private life, even when exposed without their consent, revealed a depth and a complexity and a resilience that made people more interested rather than less. They wanted exposure to be your undoing. Instead, it became your introduction to people who needed to know your story. Type exposure became introduction in the comments if this is landing for you right now. Because I feel like there are people watching this who have had their private stuff put on display by people who meant to harm them with it. And Spirit wants you to know that what those people set in motion ended up working in your favor in ways they absolutely did not intend. Now let me go deeper into why the whole world, or your whole world, the world of people who know you and observe you and are in your orbit, is talking about you right now. Because there are several layers to this, and I want to address each of them fully. The first layer is your glow up. And I am not using that phrase lightly or in a superficial way. I am talking about a genuine, substantive, from the inside out transformation that has been happening for you. Something shifted in you, maybe gradually, maybe all at once in some moment or season, and that shift has produced a visible change in how you carry yourself. There is a different quality to your presence now, a settledness, a groundedness. This is who I am, and I am not going to shrink it for any one quality that radiates from you in ways you may not even be fully conscious of. You walk differently. You speak differently. The energy you bring into spaces is different. And people around you, even people who cannot articulate what they are noticing, are responding to that difference. The people who knew you before this shift and are watching you now are the most affected by it. Because they have the reference point. They knew the version of you that was maybe more accommodating, more careful, more cautious about how much space you were allowed to take up. And they are watching the current version of you, the one who has stopped asking for permission and stopped editing and stopped making herself or himself smaller to fit other people's comfort zones. And they genuinely do not know what to do with what they are seeing. Because it is powerful, undeniably powerful. And powerful things make people talk. The second layer is the karma that is playing out around you right now. This is connected to the exposure we already talked about, but it goes beyond it. There are situations that were created around you by people who made choices to treat you a certain way, to dismiss you a certain way, to underestimate or betray or talk about you in ways that were not fair or accurate. And those situations are now producing visible consequences for the people who created them. The chickens are coming home to roost. The return of energy is happening, and it is happening in ways that are visible to the people around both you and the people experiencing that return, which means people are watching. And people are talking about what they are watching. And what they are watching includes both the consequences arriving for the people who were wrong about you and the thriving that is happening for you simultaneously. Because here is the thing about karma that people often miss: it is not just about the people who did wrong experiencing something difficult. It is also about the person they wronged experiencing something good. It is the universe correcting an imbalance. And right now, the universe is in the process of a significant correction in your favor. And that correction is visible, and people are talking about it. The third layer is your energy itself. The specific, particular, genuinely rare quality of energy that you carry and that has always made you difficult to ignore it has reached a new level of visibility. It is like it has gotten louder somehow, more concentrated, more present. And people who were already paying attention to you are now paying even more. And people who had not been paying that much attention before are now turning around and looking. Because energy at a certain frequency becomes impossible to overlook. And yours has crossed a threshold. I want to talk about who you are energetically, because Spirit spent significant time on this, and it connects to everything else. You are someone who carries a kind of spiritual weight that goes beyond personality. There is something in your bloodline, in where you come from, in the spiritual thread of your ancestry that is significant and that shows up in you in ways you may not have language for, but that other people feel. You have always been this way. It is not new. But what is new is that you have stopped trying to minimize it or hide it or make it smaller so that other people feel less unsettled by it. You have started letting it be what it is. And the full, unfiltered, unminimized version of your energy is something that is genuinely striking to encounter. People describe your presence in different ways. Some say you are magnetic. Some say there is something almost otherworldly about you. Some people feel slightly off balance when they are around you without understanding why. Some people feel inexplicably comfortable, like they can exhale in a way they cannot everywhere else. Some people feel challenged, like being near you makes them suddenly aware of the gap between who they are and who they want to be. None of these responses are wrong. They are all different people responding to the same thing, which is a genuine, powerful, unperformed spiritual presence that radiates from you whether you are trying to project it or not. This specific person, the one who is obsessively in their own head about you, feels all of this acutely. Every single time they are near you, they feel something that they cannot account for rationally. And that is a big part of why they cannot stop thinking about you. Because you represent a puzzle they cannot solve, an experience they cannot replicate anywhere else, a feeling they cannot manufacture with anyone else. And for someone who is generally very good at understanding their own experience and managing their own responses, encountering something they cannot fully understand or manage is both deeply unsettling and completely irresistible. Let me talk about the jealousy now, because it was so prominent in this reading that it needs its own full section and not just a mention. There are people in your life who are jealous of you, not envious in a light, passing way. Genuinely, deeply, sometimes acting out of that jealousy jealous. And the jealousy comes from different sources for different people. Some people are jealous of what you have built or what you are building. Some people are jealous of the quality of your character. They see your integrity and your authenticity, and they compare it to themselves and do not like what the comparison reveals. Some people are jealous of the attention you receive and the way people respond to you. Some people are jealous of what they can see coming toward you even before it has fully arrived, because they can see the trajectory and they can see where you are headed, and it is somewhere they wanted to be and are not. And some people, specifically the person we have been talking about throughout this reading, are jealous in a deeply personal, deeply invested way. They are jealous of anyone who gets your time, anyone who gets your attention, anyone who gets the warmth and the realness and the unguarded version of you that they want access to and have not yet been able to claim. They watch who you interact with. They notice who seems to be in your good graces. They keep track, probably more carefully than they would admit, of who you are spending time with and what that might mean for where they stand in the ranking of people who matter to you. And this jealousy is making them do things they would not normally do. They are more watchful than usual. They are more attuned to your social media and your movements and your availability than they normally would be about anyone. They are asking questions about you, subtle ones, carefully placed so as not to reveal how much they care about the answers to people who might have information. They are positioning themselves in your orbit in ways that are deliberate, even if they appear casual. They are working quietly and consistently to be present in your world in whatever way they can manage while they figure out how to make a real move. Because they want to make a move. That came through very clearly. This is not someone who is content to watch from a distance indefinitely. The distance is already becoming uncomfortable for them. The not knowing, the not having clarity, the being on the outside of something they want to be part of it is becoming increasingly intolerable. Something is building toward a moment where they stop being the person who watches and starts being the person who acts. And that moment is closer than you might think. Now let me talk about the financial and abundance energy, because it was significant in this reading and it needs to be addressed. Something is shifting in your material circumstances. This is connected to the broader shift happening in your life, the visibility, the karma correcting, the energy reaching a new level. All of it has material implications. Things are moving financially in your direction. Opportunities are opening. Doors that were previously closed are becoming accessible. Resources are making their way toward you through channels that may not be the ones you were originally looking at. And the timing of this financial shift is not coincidental. It is connected to the inner work you have done, to the choices you made to stop shrinking, to the decision you made consciously or unconsciously to take up the space you are meant to take up and stop apologizing for it. Abundance follows authenticity when you have done the internal work, and you have been doing the internal work even when it did not feel like work. even when it just felt like surviving or just felt like trying to be honest with yourself. All of that counts. All of that contributed. And the material shift that is incoming is a direct reflection of the internal shift that has already happened. The person we keep coming back to throughout this reading is also someone who is financially established, stable in a real and substantive way. Someone who has built something and who manages what they have built with care and intentionality. And they are someone who genuinely, from a place of care rather than control, wants to be a stabilizing presence in the life of someone they feel for deeply. They want to provide, not to create dependency or obligation. Because providing for people they love is one of the ways they express what they feel, and they have a lot to express when it comes to you. Let me talk about what is happening publicly in the wider social sense of your world, because this is where the title of this reading really comes in. Your private life has been discussed. Your story has been told by people who were not authorized to tell it. And as a result of that, your name has been in more mouths than you were necessarily aware of. And the conversation about you has taken on a life of its own that you have not had direct control over. And here is what Spirit wants you to understand about that. You cannot control what people say about you. You cannot go into every room and manage every conversation. You cannot retroactively authorize or retract the things that have already been shared. What you can control is what you do next, how you show up, what the current and ongoing version of your story says, whether you let the exposure make you smaller or whether you let it be the moment when the people who were talking about you get to see the full picture of who you actually are. And right now, in this specific season, the full picture is becoming visible. The people who only had access to fragments of your story, to secondhand accounts, to what others chose to share about you without your permission, are now starting to encounter you directly or to encounter the truth of who you are through channels that are more accurate. And what they are finding does not match the smaller, more manageable, more easily dismissed version of you that some people were circulating. What they are finding is someone full of depth and complexity and resilience and genuine power. And that realization is generating a whole new wave of conversation. One that is very different in tone from the one that started without your knowledge. The world is talking about you now. Your world. The people who matter and the people who tried to make sure they mattered by diminishing you. And what they are saying has shifted. Because the story has shifted. Because you have shifted. And there is no putting that back in the box. Comment below and type, "The story has shifted," if you can feel this happening in your current season. Because I think there are people watching this who have been through a period of being talked about in ways that felt wrong or invasive or unfair, and who are now entering a period where the conversation is catching up to who they actually are. I want to see you in the comments. Now I want to get into some of the more specific oracle messages that came through because Spirit had a lot to say in that final section of the reading, and I do not want to shortchange any of it. The first message that came through, and it came through so strongly that it almost felt like it was being shouted, is that you are not who they said you were. The versions of you that were circulated without your consent, the characterizations that were made by people who did not have full or accurate information, the labels that were applied to you by people who were operating from a place of their own limitations or their own agenda, those versions are not you. They were always incomplete at best, and deliberate distortions at worst. And the truth of who you are has been making itself known regardless of what those versions said. You are not who they said you were. You are something they were not equipped to accurately describe. And the world around you is starting to figure that out in real time. The second message, the private things that were exposed, will ultimately serve you. I know that is a difficult thing to hear if you are still in the pain of having had your privacy violated. I know it does not immediately make it feel okay or right or acceptable. And I am not saying it was okay or right or acceptable. It was not. Having your private life revealed without your consent is a violation regardless of the outcome. But what Spirit is saying is that in your specific situation, the things that were revealed, even the hard things, even the embarrassing things, even the things you would have chosen to keep private if you had been given the choice, ended up revealing more of your humanity and your depth and your realness than they revealed anything that should diminish you. And some of the people who are now in your corner, who are rooting for you, who are part of the broader conversation about you in positive terms, they came through that exposure. They found you through it, which does not make the violation okay, but does mean that something good grew from the damage. The third message, the person who is obsessively thinking about you is closer to acting on it than you realize. The internal preparation they have been doing the thinking, the analyzing, the building up of courage, the working through of how they want to say and how they want to say it is reaching a point of completion. They are almost ready. The silence between you and them is not going to last much longer. Something is going to shift in how they show up, and it is going to be soon, and it is going to be clear enough that you will not have to wonder whether you are reading it correctly. You will know. The fourth message, your authenticity, is your protection. This is something Spirit kept coming back to throughout the entire reading. In a season where your private life has been put on display, where people have been talking about you, where you have less control over your own narrative than you might like your authenticity, is what keeps you safe. Because you cannot be destroyed by exposure if who you are can withstand being seen. And who you are can withstand being seen completely. There is nothing in the truth of you that is shameful or diminishing when it is fully understood in context. Your authenticity is not a vulnerability. It is the strongest protection you have. The fifth message, the admiration, is real and it is growing. The people who are talking about you in positive terms, who are referencing you in conversations about what they want for themselves, who are quietly or not so quietly watching what you are doing and finding themselves inspired or challenged or moved by it, their number is growing. The circle of people who see you clearly and speak of you truthfully is expanding. And some of the people who were part of the less generous conversation are in the process of revising their understanding because the evidence in front of them no longer supports the version of you they were circulating. The sixth message, financial and material abundance, is incoming, and it is specifically tied to your visibility right now. The exposure, the conversations, the attention, even when it came from places you would not have chosen, is generating opportunities. Doors that would not have been open without that visibility are now open. Eyes that would not have been on you are now on you. And some of what those eyes are connected to is going to produce something concrete and material in your life. Stay alert to opportunities that come from unexpected directions. Something is coming through a channel you were not necessarily looking at. The seventh message, your bloodline is activated. Your ancestors are working. Your spiritual protection is at full strength, and it is specifically calibrated to what you are going through right now. The people who tried to use exposure to harm you found that they were not operating with the full picture of what they were dealing with. You are not unprotected. You are not vulnerable in the way they assumed. There are forces in your corner that go beyond what is visible in the physical world. And those forces are not passive. They are active. They are moving on your behalf in ways that will become increasingly apparent in this season. The 8th message, this is not the end of the story. Not even close. What is happening right now, all of it, the talking, the exposure, the visibility, the shifting narrative, the person in their feelings about you, the financial movement, the karma playing out all of it is the beginning of a chapter, not the conclusion of one. The most significant things in this story have not happened yet. The moments that are going to define this season of your life are still ahead. What is being set up right now is the context for something that is coming, something that is going to make a lot of what seemed confusing or painful or unnecessary right now make complete sense in retrospect. The 9th message, you are allowed to be protective of your privacy going forward without guilt. Having had your private life revealed without your consent does not mean you now owe anyone access to everything. You are allowed to rebuild whatever boundaries make sense for you. You are allowed to be more selective about what you share and with whom. You are allowed to take what happened as information about who can and cannot be trusted with the interior of your life. Wisdom earned through experience is not bitterness. It is discernment. And discernment is something Spirit is actively encouraging for you right now. The 10th and final message, and this one Spirit saved for last, and I think I understand why, because it is the one that pulls everything else together. You became the conversation because you became undeniable. It really is that simple. The talking, the exposure, the visibility, the person obsessing over you, the admiration, the jealousy, the karma, playing out all of it is a response to something that happened in you. You became undeniable. You reached a point in your own evolution where who you are simply could not be ignored or dismissed or overlooked anymore. Not by the people who were trying to diminish you. Not by the people who were trying to define you on their terms. Not by the person who wants you and cannot stop thinking about you. Not by the wider circle of people who are watching your story unfold. You became undeniable. And undeniable things get talked about. Always. In every context. In every kind of room. By every kind of person. The talk is not the point, you are the point. The talk is just evidence of the point. And the evidence is everywhere right now. So let them talk. Let the conversations continue. Let the exposure have done what it did. Let the person in their feelings figure out what they are going to do. Let the karma run its course. Let the abundance make its way to you. Let the visibility serve the purpose it is serving. And keep being exactly who you are, because who you are is exactly what started all of this and exactly what is going to take you all the way through to what is coming next. You are the conversation. Not because you sought it, because you earned it. By surviving what you survived. By becoming who you became through it. By refusing to let any of it make you less than you actually are. The whole world is talking about you now. And what they are saying, what they are really saying underneath all the different versions of the conversation, is that you are someone who cannot be overlooked, cannot be dismissed, cannot be summed up in someone else's version of your story, cannot be contained by an exposure or a betrayal or a season of being talked about without your consent. You are more than all of it. And the conversation is just now catching up to that truth. Stay in your power. Stay in your realness. Let what is coming come. It has been a long time in the making, and it is going to be worth every single uncomfortable moment that preceded it. The whole world is talking about you now. Make sure what they see when they look confirms everything the conversation has been building toward.